Mela mela. Ay 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 ay. Ay 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 ay. Indo mela mela. Ere mela. Indo mela mela. Ere mela. Alfellegin fikr.
In 1969, after the coup, the military led by Army Commander General Mohammed Siad Barre came to power in Somalia. The Somali Democratic Republic signed an agreement with the Soviet Union, and having received heavy military assistance from the USSR since 1970 through 1977, created one of the strongest armies in Africa. Faith in the military supremacy prompted Siad Barre to adventure. The country's leadership decided to restore so-called Great Somalia, and annex territories where ethnic Somalis lived. To do this, it was necessary to occupy some lands in Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Kenya. The Somalian leadership would not listen to Russian and Cuban warnings, but decided to start war with their immediate neighbor, Ethiopia and its province of Ogaden. Siad Barre believed that it was the right time to do so. Since the 60s, the Ethiopian government has been bogged down in a protracted struggle with guerrillas in the north of the country in the province of Eritrea. In 1974, Emperor of Ethiopia Haile Selassie was overthrown. A revolutionary military government led by Major Mengistu Haile Mariam came to power. He soon established close ties with the USSR. But the guerrilla war in northern Ethiopia continued. The southeast of Ethiopia, the province of Ogaden, was also in trouble. Mogadishu was supporting rebels from the Western Somali Liberation Front. In July 1977, Somali troops invaded Ethiopia. That was a dramatic mistake that would lead Somalia to liquidation in 1991. Mohammed Siad Barre hoped in vain on Moscow's help in this war. The USSR did not support the aggressor and sided with Ethiopia. Somalia concentrated 35,000 regular soldiers, 250 tanks, 600 artillery pieces and 40 aircraft. The militia from Liberation Front of Western Somalia numbered 20,000 combatants. Ethiopian government forces had 47,000 soldiers. They were later reinforced by 15,000 Cuban and 2,000 Yemeni troops. Barre distributed troops in 3 operational groups: South, Center, and North. The southern group at the first stage was to capture the large settlements of Dolo and Gode. The center group attacked Kabridahar and after that Dagobur. The most difficult task went to the group North. It had to challenge large cities of Jijiga, Harar and Diardawa. At the second phase, all 3 groups of Somali troops were to reach the line of Awassa, Nazareth, Asaita along the Awash River. If implemented, Ethiopia would have lost almost half of its territory. Regular Somali troops, with the support of West Somali guerrillas, began hostilities in June 1977. In a short time, the Somalis captured the cities of Kebre Dahar, Dagobur, Kare, Babel, Kombolcha, Jarso, Abu Sharif, Gode. Jihiga changed hands several times. Intermediate success was given to the Somalis at great cost. Their offensive potential was largely spent. Ethiopian troops were also not in the best condition. Both sides suffered heavy losses in manpower and equipment. Both armies needed an operational pause for rest, replenishment of personnel and weapons. In November 1977, an advisory group of the USSR Ministry of Defense under the command of General of the Army Petrov arrived in Addis Ababa. The group had the most difficult task, to develop liberation of the territory of Ethiopia from Somalis. This required, organize the supply of weapons, to man and equip new combat units of Ethiopia, to train officers and personnel to act according to Soviet, not American manuals. During the supply operation, Barracuda, 50 aircraft, 30 helicopters, 600 tanks, 300 units of light armored vehicles, 500 units of cannons and multiple rocket launchers, tons of small arms and ammunition were delivered to Ethiopia by air and sea. Cuba provided great assistance in the liberation of Ethiopia by sending 15,000 of her experienced fighters. So, on the Eastern Front in the Diardawa region, Ethiopia formed a powerful fist, the First Revolutionary Army. Together with the Cuban units, it included 33 infantry and 2 mechanized brigades with a total number of 65,000 soldiers and officers, 300 tanks, 180 guns and mortars, 42 BM-21 multiple rocket launchers. The Cuban and Ethiopian Air Force totaled 30 combat aircraft. They were opposed by 23 Somali infantry and 5 motorized brigades with a total number of 126,000 soldiers and officers, as well as 135 tanks, 100 armored vehicles, and 205 artillery pieces. At the end of November 1977, the Somalis made a failed attempt to seize Diardawa. Ethiopian troops stopped the enemy offensive. Protracted battles began around Diardawa, Harar, Babel, and Kombolcha. On February 1, 1978, Ethiopian troops launched a counterattack. The tipping point in the war has come. On March 5, Cuban and Ethiopian troops regained Jijiga. A few days later Dagakabar, Kabretahar, Gode were freed. Somali troops fled. By March 16, the entire territory of Ogaden was liberated. The war ended with Ethiopia's undisputable victory. During the war for Ogaden, Ethiopia, mainly at the first phase, lost 17,000 people, 133 tanks, 107 armored personnel carriers. The losses of the Cubans amounted to 163 people. Somalia lost 7,700 people, 154 tanks, 270 armored personnel carriers, 295 artillery guns, 34 aircraft, 11 helicopters. Thanks to the heroism of the people, as well as the help of Cuba, the GDR, Yemen, Czechoslovakia, Hungary and, of course, the USSR, Ethiopia defeated the enemy and retained its territorial integrity. Another factor in the victory was the non-intervention of the United States. Washington refrained from practical support for Somalia's aggressive aspirations. The hurricane in Ogaden was over. It was time to heal the wound.
ከብዙ ስር ዘመን ኢትዮጵያ ተፈታች። ኢትዮጵያችን ትቅደም ብለን እንገስግስ፣ ለትውልድ እንዲተርፍ ያዝነው ትንስስ። ተነሳ ተራመድ ክንድህን አበርታ፣ ለአገር ብልጽግና ለወገን መከታ።